Alex had always dreamed of settling down in a peaceful neighborhood, a place where the streets were lined with trees, neighbors greeted each other with friendly waves, and the local HOA maintained the community with quiet efficiency. When they finally moved into their new home, the excitement was palpable. The fresh paint on the walls, the neatly trimmed lawn, and the cozy porch swing all seemed like the perfect backdrop for a fresh start. But just a few weeks in, something felt off. It started with the electric bill. Normally, Alex's monthly statement hovered around a reasonable amount, enough to keep the lights on, the fridge humming, and the occasional binge watch of favorite shows. But this month, the number was shockingly higher, almost double what they'd expected. "Must be a mistake," Alex muttered, scanning the bill again. The date, the meter reading, the account number, everything seemed correct. Still, the amount made no sense. They had been careful with power usage, turning off lights and unplugging devices whenever possible. Curiosity gnawed at Alex. Over the next few days, they paid close attention to every flicker of the lights, every hum of the appliances, but nothing unusual showed up inside the house. The electricity use seemed normal, which only deepened the mystery of that sky-high bill. One evening, as Alex stepped out onto the porch to grab a breath of fresh air, they noticed a faint buzzing noise coming from the side yard near the shared fence with their neighbor. It was a low electrical hum, subtle, but unmistakably there. Alex frowned and crept closer, trying to trace the source. The buzzing seemed to emanate from the outdoor power outlet near the fence, where the neighbor's yard began. An uneasy feeling crept up Alex's spine. Why would there be electrical noise from that corner of the property? That night, sleep eluded Alex. Thoughts circled relentlessly. What if there was a problem with the wiring? What if the utility company had made a mistake? Or worse, what if someone was tapping into their electricity? The next afternoon, while pulling weeds near the fence, Alex's suspicion hardened into certainty. From the corner of their eye, they saw movement. Their neighbor, Karen, a woman known around the neighborhood for her sharp tongue and strict adherence to HOA rules, was crouched down by the power outlet. Alex froze, heart pounding. Karen appeared, to be fiddling with the outdoor socket, her hands working quickly but deliberately. Alex couldn't hear exactly what she was doing, but it was clear she was connected to their power line somehow. "Hey!" Alex called out, voice trembling slightly. Karen jumped, turning toward Alex with a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "What are you doing over there?" "Just checking my garden lights." Alex narrowed their eyes. "That outlet is on my side of the fence. Are you using my electricity?" Karen's smile disappeared instantly. "Don't be ridiculous," she snapped. "I pay my bills just like everyone else." But Alex wasn't convinced. The buzzing, the high bill, the late-night tinkering, it all pointed to one uncomfortable conclusion. Karen had been stealing power. Still, Alex held their tongue, not wanting to spark a fight in front of the other neighbors passing by. Instead, they decided to dig deeper. If Karen was indeed tapping into their electricity, it wasn't just a minor annoyance. It was theft, and it had to stop. That night, as Alex sat at the kitchen table reviewing online forums about power theft, a sense of unease settled in. This was no longer just a billing problem, it was a neighborhood battle waiting to ignite. And Alex was ready. The following evening, Alex decided to keep a closer watch on the fence line. There was no way they could let this go unchecked. The buzzing from the outdoor outlet haunted their thoughts. What if Karen had been siphoning power for weeks, months, and how had no one else noticed? As dusk settled, Alex pulled on a jacket and quietly stepped outside, clutching a flashlight and their phone. The neighborhood was calm, the streetlights casting long shadows on the pavement. Most neighbors were indoors, winding down after the day, but Alex's focus was razor sharp. They reached the fence and crouched behind a bush, keeping a keen eye on Karen's yard. For a while, nothing happened. Then, around 9 p.m., Alex spotted her. Karen emerged from her back door holding a small toolbox. She moved with practiced stealth, approaching the fence outlet where Alex had seen her the night before. The moonlight illuminated her face, set in a grim expression. Alex's heart hammered as they watched Karen kneel by the outlet, pulling out a bundle of wires from her toolbox. She connected something, an extension cord, to the outdoor socket, and then led it under the fence toward her yard. Alex shivered. The buzzing sound returned, louder now. It was undeniable. Karen was tapping into their power supply. What made it worse was the calculated way Karen worked, as if this was a routine she had perfected. Alex pulled out their phone and snapped a few photos from their hiding spot. The pictures would be proof just in case Karen denied everything. But then, a shadow moved behind Karen. Another figure. Someone Alex hadn't seen before. A man, tall and nondescript, approached the fence, nodding quietly to Karen. "Who is that?" Alex whispered to themselves, lowering the phone. The mystery was deepening. The man didn't stay long. After a brief exchange, he slipped back into the neighbor's house. Karen returned her tools to the box, wiped her hands on her jeans, and disappeared inside. Alex exhaled slowly, feeling both anxious and determined. They couldn't confront Karen without knowing more. Something was off about this whole situation. Why involve a stranger in the middle of the night? Over the next few days, Alex discreetly asked around. Some neighbors mentioned hearing odd noises late at night near Karen's house, but no one wanted to get involved. Karen had a reputation for being difficult, an unofficial HOA enforcer who loved calling out others for tiny infractions, but rarely followed rules herself. One neighbor confided, "She's always finding ways to push boundaries. You better watch out." Alex realized this wasn't just a simple power theft issue. Karen thrived on control, and the electricity was just one weapon in her arsenal. Determined to gather more evidence, Alex started recording electricity usage hourly with a smart meter app and took notes about when the buzzing noise occurred. The pattern was clear. The power spike happened whenever Karen's yard lights came on, especially late at night when most neighbors were asleep. Then an idea hit. Alex could install a hidden power meter directly on the outdoor outlet, a device that would show exactly how much electricity was being pulled through that socket. But it was risky. If Karen caught them, things could escalate quickly. Still, Alex had to know the truth. Late one evening, armed with the meter and some tools, Alex approached the fence again. Their hands shook slightly as they worked to attach the device without making a sound. The neighborhood was silent, save for distant crickets. As the meter clicked into place, a sudden noise made Alex freeze. Footsteps approaching. Heart racing. Alex ducked behind a bush just as Karen appeared, flashlight in hand, scanning the fence line. "Who's there?" Karen's voice cut sharply through the night. Alex held their breath, hoping to stay hidden. Karen paused, muttered something under her breath, then moved on. Alex waited a full minute before breathing again. This was a game of nerves now. The next day, armed with their new data, Alex knew it was only a matter of time before the confrontation, and whatever Karen had planned next would come crashing down. The data was undeniable. Alex's hidden power meter recorded a steady drain from the outdoor outlet, especially during the evenings when Karen's yard lights blazed to life. Each spike in electricity usage aligned perfectly with the buzzing, noise Alex had heard, and the suspicious activities near the fence. Armed with proof, Alex decided it was time to confront Karen, but they knew this wouldn't be easy. Karen was notorious in the neighborhood, known for her sharp tongue, her no-nonsense attitude, and her ability to turn any dispute into a drawn-out battle. On a bright Saturday morning, when most neighbors were out tending gardens or walking dogs, Alex walked next door, clipboard in hand. Their palms were sweaty, but their mind was resolute. Karen was outside, pruning her rose bushes, her sunglasses reflecting the sunlight like tiny shields. As Alex approached, she looked up, her face hardening. "Karen," Alex began, voice steady, but cautious. "We need to talk." Karen raised an eyebrow, folding her arms. "About what?" Alex took a deep breath and held out the clipboard, showing the readings from the power meter. "This shows that someone has been tapping into my outdoor power outlet, using electricity that I'm paying for. It happens almost every evening." Karen glanced at the papers, then laughed, sharp and cold. "That's ridiculous. I pay my bills like everyone else. Maybe your meter is faulty." "No," Alex replied firmly. "I checked with the utility company. The spike isn't a meter error, and I've seen you near the outlet late at night." Karen's smile vanished instantly. Her eyes narrowed like a hawk locking onto prey. "Who told you that?" Alex hesitated. "I saw you myself." Karen stepped closer, lowering her voice so only Alex could hear. "Listen, I don't know what game you're playing, but if you think you can accuse me of stealing power, you're dead wrong." Alex's heart pounded. This wasn't going as they had hoped. Karen's voice rose, attracting the attention of a few nearby neighbors who peeked from behind curtains or walked past with curious glances. "I'm the one who helps keep this neighborhood." "In line!" Karen shouted. "And you, newcomer, are trying to make trouble? I won't stand for this nonsense." Alex swallowed hard but stood their ground. "It's not about making trouble. It's about doing what's right. Using someone else's electricity without permission is theft." Karen's eyes flashed dangerously. "If you keep this up, I can make life very difficult for you. HOA rules aren't a joke." Before Alex could respond, Karen stormed into her house, slamming the door behind her. A neighbor across the street called out softly, "You sure you want to tangle with her? She's got the HOA wrapped around her finger." Alex nodded to themselves, stealing their resolve. This was only the beginning. If Karen was willing to threaten and intimidate, it meant she knew she was in the wrong. And if she was hiding something bigger, Alex was about to find out. Later that evening, Alex received a cryptic text from an unknown number. "Watch your back. Not everything is as it seems in this neighborhood." Alex's fingers trembled as they stared at the message. Was it a warning, a threat, or a clue? The next few days passed in a tense fog. Alex stayed alert, watching Karen's movements more carefully than ever. They noticed her speaking quietly to the mysterious man from the night by the fence, the one Alex had glimpsed weeks ago. The pieces were slowly coming together, but the picture was far from complete. Alex's instincts told them Karen's power theft was just one thread in a tangled web. But to unravel it, Alex would have to go deeper, risking not just their electricity, but their safety and peace of mind. And Karen? She was ready to fight back with everything she had. The tension in the neighborhood was thick enough to cut with a knife. Since the confrontation, Alex felt like they were walking on a tightrope, every glance over their shoulder a reminder that Karen was watching, waiting for a misstep. The cryptic text message still burned in their mind. "Watch your back. Not everything is as it seems in this neighborhood." Who had sent it? And why now? One thing was clear, Alex couldn't back down. Karen's theft was blatant, but she had the kind of influence that made others wary of crossing her. The HOA, with its maze of rules and power plays, was an unpredictable battleground. Alex's next move had to be smart, precise, and most importantly, inescapable. Late that night, under the cloak of darkness, Alex crept outside. They carried with them a small, high-tech smart power meter and a heavy-duty lockbox. This wasn't just about catching Karen in the act anymore. It was about stopping her outright. The plan was risky. Alex would install the meter directly onto the outdoor outlet and then encase it in the lockbox to prevent tampering. If Karen tried to steal power again, The meter would record the exact usage, and the lockbox would block her access. The silence of the neighborhood was eerie as Alex worked quickly but carefully, their breath forming little clouds in the chilly night air. Every sound seemed amplified, a distant dog barking, the rustle of leaves, their own heartbeat pounding in their ears. As the lockbox clicked shut over the outlet, a sudden noise froze Alex in place. Footsteps approaching. Their pulse raced. Holding their breath, Alex slipped behind a nearby bush, barely daring to breathe. Through the slats of the fence, they saw a familiar figure, Karen, flashlight in hand, prowling the yard like a predator. Karen's beam swept the area near the outlet, lingering longer than seemed normal. She paused, then muttered, "You're not going to get away with this." Alex's eyes narrowed. Karen knew something was up. Minutes later, Karen retreated back into her house, but Alex could feel the storm gathering. The next morning, news traveled fast. A few neighbors whispered about the strange light flashing from Karen's yard the night before. Rumors started swirling. Had Karen finally been caught red-handed? But Karen was far from defeated. Later that day, Alex received a sharp knock at their door. Standing on the porch was an HOA board member, Ms. Reynolds, a stern woman with an air of authority and a clipboard clutched tightly in one hand. "We've had complaints," Ms. Reynolds said flatly, "about alterations to the common property and interference with shared utilities." Alex swallowed. The lockbox and meter were on their own property, but the outlet sat dangerously close to the property line. This was the HOA's perfect excuse to get involved. "I'm only protecting my property," Alex explained calmly. "There's been unauthorized use of my electricity." Ms. Reynolds' eyes flicked to the clipboard. "That's a serious claim. You should have gone through official channels." Alex clenched their jaw. "I tried, but the situation is urgent. My bills are skyrocketing, and the theft is ongoing." Ms. Reynolds sighed. "We'll need to investigate. In the meantime, no further alterations." As she turned to leave, Alex caught a glimpse of something behind her. Karen, watching from her front porch with a smirk. The HOA was already pulling strings. That night, Alex sat alone on the porch, the cool breeze carrying a distant hum. The familiar buzz from the locked outlet. For now, Karen's power theft was stopped, but the battle lines were drawn, and the war was far from over. Alex's heart pounded as the clock edged toward evening. Tonight would be the final test. If Karen was still stealing power, it was time to cut the cord for good. The locked meter had bought some time, but the electricity was still flowing too, Karen's yard buzzing faintly under the hum of streetlights and distant cars. Alex had a plan. With a circuit breaker switch tucked safely inside their garage, they could sever power to the outdoor outlet completely. With steady hands, Alex flipped the breaker, and silence fell. No buzzing, no flicker of lights. Relief flooded over Alex, but it was short-lived. Less than an hour later, flashing red and blue lights appeared at the end of the driveway. Heart in throat, Alex rushed to the door as two police officers stepped out of their patrol car and approached. "Good evening," one officer said, tone polite but firm. "We received a call about a disturbance involving power being cut off," Alex explained, quickly, showing the power meter, the lockbox, and the record of suspicious electricity use. But the officers exchanged a glance. "The complaint came from your neighbor," one said. "She claims you damaged her property and are harassing her." Alex blinked. Harassment? Property damage? They had only cut power to the outlet, which was on their property. Karen appeared on her porch, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. She spoke, calmly but clearly for the officers to hear. "He cut off my electricity without warning. It's dangerous and illegal." The officers nodded, taking notes and inspecting the breaker box. "Sir," one officer said quietly, "we'll need to investigate further. For now, please restore power." Alex's chest tightened. Restoring power meant undoing the only way to stop the theft. But they had no choice. Reluctantly, Alex flipped the breaker back on. The familiar buzz returned, louder than before, as if Karen's theft was a challenge. The officers thanked Alex and returned to their car. As the patrol car pulled away, Alex glanced toward Karen's house. She was already back indoors, a triumphant smile playing on her lips. The fallout hit hard and fast. The next day, rumors spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Some sided with Karen, painting Alex as the aggressor. Others whispered about Karen's overreach, but few wanted to get involved openly. Even worse, the HOA board sent a formal notice demanding Alex remove the lockbox and stop interfering with what they called common utilities. The letter hinted at fines and legal action if Alex didn't comply. Alex felt cornered. They were caught between the law, the HOA, and a neighbor who seemed willing to weaponize both. That evening, the mysterious text message appeared again on Alex's phone. "You're in deeper than you know. Watch every move." Sweat beaded on Alex's forehead. Was this a warning or a threat? Determined not to be bullied, Alex reached out to a local electrician for advice. The electrician confirmed the illegal tap and suggested documenting everything, photos, videos, written logs, to build a solid case. But the electrician's parting words chilled Alex. "People like your neighbor don't give up easily. Be careful." Meanwhile, Karen seemed to escalate her campaign. Trash bins were mysteriously overturned on Alex's lawn. Late-night noises echoed from her yard, dogs barking, loud voices. But when Alex looked, no one was there. The neighborhood, once a haven, felt like a minefield. Yet despite the growing danger, Alex refused to back down. The power theft was only the start. Something bigger was brewing beneath the surface, and Alex was ready to expose it all, no matter the cost. The tension in the neighborhood had reached a boiling point. Alex's peaceful life was shattered, replaced by late-night anxiety and the feeling of being watched. But amidst the chaos, a strange ally emerged from an unlikely place. One morning, Alex was surprised to receive a note slipped under their front door. The handwriting was neat and precise, unfamiliar. "Meet me at the community center tonight. I have information you need to know." Someone who's tired of the lies. Curious but cautious, Alex debated ignoring it. But something about the message struck a chord. The phrase "tired of the lies" hinted at a deeper story, one beyond just stolen electricity. That evening, under the dim glow of the community center's parking lot lights, Alex waited. Minutes later, a figure approached. An elderly woman named Mrs. Patel, a longtime resident of the neighborhood, known for her quiet presence but sharp mind. "I've seen what's been happening," Mrs. Patel said softly. "Karen isn't just stealing power. She's been covering up a lot more, using her influence to hide serious violations." Alex listened intently as Mrs. Patel pulled out old HOA documents and photos she had secretly gathered over the years. There were building code violations, unauthorized modifications to properties, and suspicious financial records pointing to embezzlement within the HOA board. "And Karen?" Alex asked, eyes wide. "She's at the center of it all," Mrs. Patel replied. "She's been manipulating the HOA to her advantage for years, silencing anyone who challenges her." The pieces began to fall into place. Karen's theft of electricity was part of a much larger scheme, a power play, both literally and figuratively. Mrs. Patel handed Alex a folder filled with evidence. "If you want to take her down, you'll need to be careful. She has friends on the board, and they'll fight dirty." That night, Alex pored over the documents, heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. This was bigger than a neighborly dispute. It was corruption at the highest level of the HOA. The next day, Alex made a bold decision to bring the evidence to the entire neighborhood. But Karen was one step ahead. At the next HOA meeting, as Alex prepared to speak, Karen took the floor first, spinning a web of lies. She accused Alex of fabricating stories, disrupting the community, and violating HOA rules. The room was divided, whispers swirling. Just as Alex stepped forward with Mrs. Patel's documents, a shocking interruption occurred. Another resident, Mr. Jacobs, previously silent and distant, stood up. He had worked in construction for decades and had witnessed Karen's violations firsthand. "I can confirm everything Alex says," Mr. Jacobs declared. "Karen's been cutting corners and hiding the truth from all of us." The room fell into stunned silence. For the first time, Karen's control was visibly shaken, but then the unexpected twist hit. The HOA president announced that an independent investigator had been hired to audit the community's records, spurred by anonymous tips. Karen's face paled, the confident mask slipping. As the meeting ended, Karen stormed out, her threats quieter but no less menacing. Alex realized the fight was far from over, but now, the shadows hiding Karen's secrets were finally beginning to unravel. The neighborhood's perfect facade was cracking, and Alex was at the center of it all. The days following the HOA meeting were filled with a tense electric energy. The independent investigator had arrived, a no-nonsense woman named Detective Harris, tasked with digging into the HOA's finances and violations. Her presence stirred. Whispers and sideways glances throughout the neighborhood. Alex felt a cautious surge of hope. Finally, there was an impartial force looking beyond Karen's carefully constructed mask. But the investigation also brought danger. Karen's demeanor shifted, from smug confidence to cold calculation. She no longer confronted Alex directly. Instead, her attacks became subtler, more insidious. Late one evening, Alex found their mailbox stuffed with anonymous letters full of veiled threats and warnings to drop the matter. One note read, "Some truths aren't worth chasing. Stop. Digging or you'll regret it." Alex's nerves frayed, but they pressed on, encouraged by Detective Harris's quiet professionalism. Harris spent hours poring over documents, speaking to residents, and reviewing records. She confirmed many of Mrs. Patel's allegations: improper expenditures, falsified reports, and unpermitted home modifications. The power theft was just the tip of the iceberg. Meanwhile, Karen's network of allies began to fray. Some neighbors who had feared her finally spoke out, emboldened by the investigation. But Karen retaliated in kind. One night, Alex's car was vandalized, tires slashed, windows scratched with threatening words. "Back off." Alex reported the incident to the police, but it only deepened their isolation. Many neighbors now kept their distance, unwilling to get involved. The HOA board convened an emergency meeting to address the growing scandal. Karen was defensive, but the evidence was overwhelming. Under pressure, she resigned her position on the board, but rumors circulated that she was already plotting her comeback. Alex knew the fight wasn't over. Detective Harris shared a confidential update. The investigation was expanding to include potential criminal charges, but they needed stronger community support. Alex organized a neighborhood gathering, a peaceful meeting to unite residents and present the facts. It was a risk, but necessary to break Karen's hold on the community. The turnout surprised Alex. Faces that had once been wary now showed determination. Stories poured out, small injustices, unexplained fees, unfair fines, all connected to Karen's influence. The meeting ended with a unanimous call for transparency and reform. As the sun set, Alex felt a flicker of victory, but also a shadow of warning. Karen's power wasn't just local anymore. She had resources, connections, and a willingness to fight dirty. That night, Alex received one last message on their phone. "You think this ends here? It's only the beginning." The weeks that followed were a blur of meetings, legal consultations, and sleepless nights. The neighborhood was a powder keg, teetering on the edge of change, or chaos. Karen's threats escalated in both frequency and intensity. Strange cars circled the block, and mysterious phone calls rattled Alex's evenings. Yet, despite the pressure, Alex refused to be intimidated. Detective Harris's investigation gained momentum. Her report was damning, outlining multiple violations, and recommending criminal charges against Karen and several board members. The HOA had become a nest of corruption, and Karen was at its heart. On a rainy Thursday evening, the HOA called an emergency meeting to vote on dissolving the current board and holding new elections. The community hall was packed, the air thick with anticipation. Karen arrived late, her usual confidence replaced by an icy glare. She took the podium, ready to defend herself, but the evidence was overwhelming. Testimonies from residents, the investigators' report, and Alex's documented proof left little room for doubt. As the vote was called, Karen's supporters dwindled. The motion to dissolve passed with near unanimity. For a moment, it seemed victory was at hand. But then a sharp gasp echoed from the back of the room. A man stepped forward, the same stranger Alex had seen near Karen's yard weeks ago, his face was unfamiliar, but his voice was steady and commanding. "I'm David Martin," he announced, "and I've been working undercover with Detective Harris, gathering evidence you don't yet know about." The room fell silent. David revealed that Karen's theft of power was a cover-up for a larger scheme, an illegal wiring network funneling stolen electricity not just from Alex's property, but from multiple homes across the neighborhood to a hidden operation in an abandoned warehouse. This wasn't just about personal gain, David explained. It was part of a broader criminal enterprise involving organized theft and even money laundering. Karen's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Detective Harris stepped forward, announcing that arrests would be made immediately. The weight of the revelation settled over the room like a thunderclap. Alex felt a mixture of relief and shock. The story had spiraled far beyond what anyone had imagined. As officers moved to detain Karen and several accomplices, she locked eyes with Alex. There was no fury now, only cold acceptance. "Congratulations," she said quietly. "You broke the chain, but beware. In this neighborhood, power always finds a way." Days later, the neighborhood began to heal. The new HOA board was formed with transparency and fairness as its foundation. Alex looked out over the fence, the sunlight catching the tips of the trees. The buzzing was gone, replaced by calm, but in the back of their mind lingered Karen's last words. The neighborhood was safe, for now. Because in communities like this, where secrets run deep, the battle for power never truly ends.